Hey guys, it's Gina. Welcome to the place where your growth meets mine. Let's talk. I want you to stay with me for a moment and not multitask, not scroll, not half listen the way that we're trained to half listen to everything now, but just listen. Because what I'm about to say to you is not meant to hype you up. It's not meant to slow you down, but it's meant to catch your attention enough that you can actually hear yourself again. You don't need another push. I promise you don't need another promise. You don't need another technique. What you need, whether you realize it or not, is space. Everything you look, something, everywhere you catch yourself looking at, there will always be something that is trying to speak to you. It might be an advice, it might be motivation, fear, urgency, comparison, inspiration. There will be a constant voice telling you how late you already are. And slowly, without noticing it, you lose the ability to hear your own attention. So let me talk to you directly, but not as a teacher or not as a guru, not as someone who has it all figured out, because I haven't. Just as someone who has noticed something simple and hard to unsee once you see it. Most people are not stuck because they lack information. They're stuck because their attention is exhausted. You don't have a motivational problem. What you have is an overstimulation problem. And the strange thing is that the very content you think is helping you grow might be the thing that is keeping you dependent. So think about this honestly. How often do you watch something that makes you feel like you are working on yourself, but nothing is your actual day changed afterward? You feel a spark, a sense of clarity, a moment of, yes, this is it. And then the video ends and life looks exactly the same. That's not because you are lazy. It's because your brain learned something subtle. It learned that relief can come without effort. And once that association is formed, real effort feels unnecessary or unbearable. Why struggle? Why risk? Why act when you can feel progress by listening? This is not a moral failure. This is conditioning. Your brain is doing exactly what it's trained to do. And here is the most uncomfortable part. Every time you consume motivation instead of acting, you reinforce the identity of someone who needs motivation. Read that again in your mind. You don't become strong by constantly being encouraged. You become strong by tolerating the absence of encouragement. Real growth begins when nobody's talking to you, when there is no voice guiding you, no soundtrack, no validation, just you and time. That's why silence matters. Silence is not empty. Silence is demanding. In silence, your excuses have nowhere to hide. In silence, your impulses become visible. In silence, you notice how quickly your mind looks for escape. That impulse to grab your phone when nothing is happening, that's not boredom. That's dependency revealing itself. Boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the withdrawal phase. It's the moment when your nervous system says, give me something, anything, and if you don't, something interesting happens. Your attention starts to rebuild from the inside instead of being pulled from the outside. Most people never experience this because they never stay long enough. They panic. They label it as a lack of purpose. They assume that something is wrong. But actually nothing is wrong. What is wrong is that we eliminated every natural pause from human life. And without pauses, you can't think clearly. You cannot react. Ask yourself something and don't answer quickly. When was the last time you did something without consuming anything at the same time? No audio, no input, no background noise, just the act itself. If that feels uncomfortable to even imagine, that tells you everything. Attention is like a muscle. It is constantly assisted, it never develops strength. So when people say, I can't focus, I lack discipline, I lack drive, what they mean is that I never let my attention stand on its own. And here's the part that nobody likes to hear. Discipline does not feel inspiring. Clarity does not feel exciting. Progress does not feel cinematic. It feels quiet, it feels repetitive, it feels underwhelming. That's how it works. And that's why it works. The people who build things, real things, are not living in a constant emotional high. They are calm, sometimes they are bored, sometimes they are frustrated, often uncertain. That's how it works. But they are not constantly stimulated. They're present with friction. And friction is where capacity grows. So if you're listening to me right now, hoping for a trick or a shift or a sentence that will suddenly make everything easier, I'm not going to give you that. What I will give you is permission to stop chasing stimulation disguised as growth. You don't need to consume less because it's bad. You need to consume less so your own signal can return. Because right now, your life is too loud. And in that noise, you can't hear what actually matters to you. Try this. Not forever. Not dramatically. Just once a day. 10 minutes. No phone, no content, no plan. Sit, walk, stare, breathe. Let boredom come. Let the urge rise. Don't replace it. You don't need to fight it. You don't obey it. That moment right there is where your attention retrains itself. Not through effort, but through restraint. And at first it will feel pointless. That's how you know it's working. Because the part of you that demands constant input is losing control. Over time, something changes. You don't feel more motivated. You feel more available. Tasks feel simpler, decisions feel clearer. You stop needing emotional permission to act. And one day you'll notice something quietly powerful. You are doing things without needing to be told why. And that's autonomy. That's strength. Not loud, not dramatic, not marketable, but real. So, if this is the only thing you take from this, stop asking why can't I change? Start asking why am I constantly feeding my attention? And then, just once, choose silence instead. Not because silence gives you answers, but because it removes the noise that was preventing you from hearing them. Stay there. That's where everything real begins. Yes, that intuition is very accurate. Silence and boredom are not empty states. They are active, retraining conditions for attention. Let me explain this carefully and concretely. Why silence retrains attention? Silence removes external authority. When there is no sound, no voice, no guidance, no stimulation, your brain can no longer outsource direction. The prefrontal cortex has to step in and organize experience on its own. At first, this feels uncomfortable because the amygdala is used to constant input. Silence removes reassurance. There is no emotional anchor. What rises in silence is not truth at first. It's noise, urges, unfinished thoughts, anxieties, impulses to escape. That is not failure. That is exposure. Each time you stay instead of escaping, impulsive circuits weaken, self-regulatory circuits strengthen, and attention becomes internally generated rather than externally captured. Silence forces attention to stay on its own legs. With boredom, impulses fire and are observed. Observation weakens compulsion. Why this feels perfect to you? From everything that we have said, you value clarity over comfort. You want to see things before naming them. Silence and boredom are the only environments where language loses dominance and perception sharpens. That's not mystical, that's neurological. And what happens over time, this is very important, if you practice silence and boredom regularly, restlessness decreases, attention stabilizes, thinking becomes less reactive, motivation becomes quieter but more reliable, and the need for external stimulation drops. You don't become numb, you become less hijackable. A simple practice, no ritual, no spirituality. Once a day, sit or walk for 10 to 15 minutes. No phone, no music, no input. Let that boredom arise. Do not replace it. That's it. If your mind says, this is useless, note it. If your body feels restless, let it. If nothing happens, that is fine. Nothing happening is the training. Silence and boredom don't give you something. They take away what was controlling you. Hi guys, it's Gina. Welcome to the place where your growth meets mine. I'll see you next time.